Welcome to Psychic Evolution with evidential psychic medium Jamie Clark and spiritual coach and healer Maggie Clark.
And welcome back to another episode of Psychic Evolution. I'm Jamie Clark.
And I'm Maggie Clark, and this is the podcast where you discover the psychic potential within to empower yourself and manifest your psychic and mediumship gifts.
And these abilities are so natural, they're supernatural.
And today we are so honored to bring on Michelle Henderson. She is a certified spiritual advisor, also a psychic medium, and an author and a speaker. And we are bringing her on today because we've had a lot of requests from our listeners to look at how to work with their kids who are opening up, developing their psychic abilities, not sure how to train them, what to do, how to approach these situations. And Michelle has recently just published this book, Spiritual Nurturing for Intuitive Children, training parents to embrace and enhance their psychic child's abilities. And it was published this year in 2022. And we've read this book together, Jamie and I did, and it is awesome. It is so outstanding, the way that it's structured, the way that it's laid out. If you are a light worker, if you are a spiritual coach, if you are a psychic medium, if you are a parent of a child who is opening up and blossoming into these gifts, which, my opinion, every child right now could use a parent to read this book. It is fabulous. Not only does it take you step by step to really integrate how you're going to be approaching children, how you can approach children. There are exercises to do with children, things that you can do on your own as a parent to really integrate your process with your child. It's fabulous. So we are super honored. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
You know, I got a chance to grow up with my mom. Seeing her interact with other people, I felt very comfortable. I'm very, very thankful. Now looking back, it's like I needed my whole life to work on this stuff because I grew up in a family that they all used their abilities, every one of them. My mom would say stuff, and a lot of times 2 hours later, that circumstance would happen. In the beginning, I'm like, are you making that happen? She's like, no, and she filled me in with how she reads energy and all that kind of stuff. But it gave me a chance to just be me because not only could I help work with my own abilities, I got to see my mom do it daily with other people. My two boys got to see me in action. All they knew, because they were born when I was doing this professionally, so all they saw was just me doing this. But they also would go to public presentations and see to go, Dad doesn't know these people in any way, but these people are saying yes, and they're breaking down crying and the connections. And so it gave them a chance to be very, very comfortable with being able to see me in action and the reaction of other people that are there. Do you have a lot of kids that are starting to, like they are, open up and maybe being even more open to using those psychic gifts in their day-to-day living?
Absolutely. And I think really once they start talking about it and having the conversation with their parents, I think it depends on how the parents approach it or how they handle it. So if a parent says, okay, let's see what we can do to help you, then they start embracing it and they go, okay, I have the support that I need. But I think people are beginning to be more open to it, and the parents, once they understand what's going on, they do want their child because they see that spirituality come out. They see their child being happy. And it just takes just a small part to say, I can use this on a daily basis. But you also need to teach a child how not to invade other people's privacy. Because if you've got those psychic abilities and you can pick up some things, you need to make sure that the child knows not to do that around everybody.
Now you have this education, this beautiful 30-year education in educational diagnostician and
Yes.
behavioral analysis.
Yes.
So not only do you come from a psychic medium perspective, but you come from a background of really understanding behavior and how we develop behaviors in life. How did that work when you were developing this wonderful book? How much of that did you actually pull in and use? Probably quite a bit, I would
Mhm.
imagine. But what was that process like, combining the psychic medium part with your training as a behavior analyst?
And that is a great question. I've used all of my experiences because growing up, my parents did not accept my abilities. Even though that my mother had the ability, they were afraid of it. So I grew up in the Bible Belt of Texas. And so I decided to use it on a daily basis, not really tell everybody, just use that intuition and to get me through on it. I knew when I was going to have children, I knew when I was going to get married, and I followed that intuition to the T. And of course, Jesus was my best friend. He helped me through everything. Okay, so whenever I started education, I continued as well. So I would use that intuitive ability to work with the children. I knew what they needed. And especially when I worked with children with autism, I didn't realize that a lot of nonverbal kids with autism can telepathically communicate with you. And while I was doing research for the
Mhm.
book, I went, that's exactly what went on. So I could communicate with the kids, with not only telepathically, but with their energy. And I knew what they were needing. And I knew what the parents were needing to talk about. And now, whenever I did talk with the parents, I didn't invade their privacy because I don't want to know everything that they don't want to express to me or give me that knowledge. So with the parents, what I would do is if they were angry or they needed that nurturing, I would get my, love and light energy and I would spread it towards them. And so little things like that really helped. But it really shows my age. I think the experiences that we go through, the things that, the frustrations that I went through brought me the knowledge to what needed to be in the book. And the more that I talked to more psychic mediums, I found out that I was not alone. A lot of people went through the same experience. And so when I talked with them, they said, yeah, growing up, I had to close that closet. I couldn't come out. I couldn't use my intuitive abilities.
Now, that brings up a very interesting point to me, and that is look at how they're acting. I've always shared with my boys, you control your abilities. Your
Yes.
abilities do not control you. So they, oh, okay. Because when they're working with it, if they don't possibly have a different perspective or awareness of it, they get a little freaky deaky. And then as they're doing that, they're trying to find out, are my friends going to be okay with that? Are they going to think I'm one of them? Uh, and so I found that for myself, and apparently as you have children, you know that we can only be us. But if they can see us in action and see the reaction with other people, and how, in this case, if they want to use their abilities, that it's okay to do that. Not only that, but that could possibly be life changing for people. And I'm very honored because that boys would see me doing the presentations and people would break down crying. And in that, they got comfortable to go, that's not a negative thing. Dad's hitting that information and
Mhm.
personalities and characteristics and all of that, that is like, wow, that's either really good guest work or some to it. Right. That's the point. So, in this capacity, I'm about having fun. I want to be entertaining and informative because for myself, I found if I got serious with the spiritual stuff, everything got serious. I'm not ignorant, right? I have
Right.
an awareness of things, but I keep it for me, right, light and energized. Do you, as you've been studying over the years, have you seen potentially that maybe different dynamics or circumstances for kids might activate their abilities, where either it's a home that may not be the most loving, or possibly mental or physical abuse, or whatever the case is? How is that work that you've become aware of?
Well, what I've been seeing, especially the children who have lost somebody in the family or a good friend, and that seems to really activate it because they'll get visited by whoever passed over. And so I think that really brings out, and I think you're right too. I had a psychic medium friend who would astro travel because she had a horrible home life. She was abused, and she would travel on a nightly basis. And now she practices as a psychic medium to help others as well. And I think, I think there's a reason we experience what we do, because she gets a lot of people that have been abused that come across and need readings and need healing. And I really get a lot of educators that really want to understand this and know how to help their students. And so it's just like energy with energy and through the same experiences. But yeah, so to answer your question, I think there are a lot of experiences that the kids really wake up to, and I think they go, you know what? There's more to it. Maybe I need to learn how to control it. And I think too, if they have friends that go, "Oh, that is totally awesome. Let's do this together," and they explore together. I just talked to a young lady who was 17, and she said that she had a best friend that they could feel each other's pain. Like, do you have a stomach ache? I do have a stomach ache. And they would kind of read each other. And I'm thinking that is just wonderful that she had that support. So she's really embracing it and taking it the next step forward.
I've found that when I read for people, I'm connecting with their thoughts. Their attention to those thoughts would create vibrations of information, and I read it. My thing is I'm not intruding, and unless they can stop thinking, they're not going to stop that information flow. So for me, it's never manipulation. I want to understand the best that I can with the fullness of my soul to go, oh, I see where this person is at, so that I can talk with them, not just to them. And when they can feel to go, okay, I didn't realize what was going on. I was starting to freak out, man. Now, here's another dynamic that it brings up for me, and that is with the religion or others, if they're in the religious mode and they're opening up to their gifts, their psychic gifts, do they possibly have angels that come to see them in the beginning because of the religious connection to the angels or that? Or is it, because I believe you were just sharing that some of their loved ones would come to them as well, is there an acclamation? Do you know, is there kind of an introduction with the angels and then loved ones and ascended masters and extraterrestrials? Or do you know how that might work?
Well, and what I've been really hearing, and you're right, I think they're seeing a lot of the angels that come through and they can feel it and they can see the light. And I think it's also with the loved ones. Now, I haven't come across anybody that has really talked about aliens or, but I haven't connected with anybody, that really talks about it. But there again,
Hello.
No, exactly. So I think it's one step at a time. I think some people are beginning to open up, but they open up to so much, if that makes any sense. So a lot of the conservative people, even though they may believe in aliens, they may not talk about it. I know that I talked to a lot of Christians who had near-death experiences, and they won't talk about it. They go, I've been told not to talk about that. Could be the devil. And I'm going, no, that's another story.
What I love about your book is that it can really reach people wherever they're approaching this book from. You just have to have a little bit of an open mind. You need a crack in the door. And as long as that crack is open, you can start exploring different things. And you don't have to tune yourself into all the exercises that are in the book. If you're not relating to some of
Exactly.
them, you might just do the ones that you relate to. But I guarantee you, anyone listening can find something in this book to relate to, whether it's just like telling your child it's okay to have a boundary with their psychic gifts. Every
Right.
child, that is something that I was lacking as a child that I needed first, was the ability to say, go away, instead of, you're dreaming, Maggie, go back to sleep,
When
right?
did you start putting those parameters around for you?
Oh, I didn't even put parameters around until I was 20 years old. I didn't even know how to. I didn't
Right.
know. And
Right.
so that's the beauty of this book, is no matter what your religious preference is, no matter if you're spiritual or if you go to church or wherever you're approaching your spirituality from, if you're willing to help your children, speaking from experience, they need help. And
Mhm.
that's your experience too. And of course, you've seen this over the years. I love that you can work with autistic children who do process spirit in such a beautiful way. I love the way they process spirit. And you can
Mhm.
work with them. You could have seen them. And not only is it going to apply to autistic children, it's going to apply to every single child.
Right.
And we work with some autistic families with their kids. to help them understand how their kids are communicating, because they might be communicating in numbers. So we'll tell the parents what the numbers mean. And, they
Right.
might be
Right.
communicating in different ways. And it's really important to just step outside of your own paradigm for a moment and say, what's going to be best for my child? I can applaud you for this book because no matter where you're approaching it from, I can't see that something won't connect to every parent on this planet.
Well, I am so glad. Thank you so much. Whenever I did parent training for kids with autism, I knew that if I created a program, the parents have to like it. So if a light worker works with a family, you do have to look at the different aspects of the family dynamic. I mean, what kind of religion do they have? What do they believe in? Are they going to accept, if you say your child may need this crystal, are they going to accept that? So you really have to know where the family is coming from. So that you really have to get to know the family first and the dynamics.
So being able to help these kids to open up, to become more comfortable with their spiritual gifts, have you over the years in any way ever heard about kids who are in a very religious place, a home, and then they're working with their spiritual gifts and start to become spiritually insightful, and then they approach their religion with a slightly different spiritual perspective? Have you ever gotten any feedback or anyone
Absolutely,
shared something like
absolutely.
that?
They start finding out, you know what? We can do both. Religion is the way that you practice and the way that you learn the history and you learn, the biblical language. But spiritual, it just seems like you feel it more, with the religion. Now, some people can get both from the religion, but I think, yes. So I think they're diving into both, that you can be spiritual, you can use your psychic gifts, and you can also be religious. So you can
Beautiful.
do both.
And yeah, I see a lot of doctors that are on the same pattern. And I got to say, I have a lot of doctors who are clients, and all of them have said that when a patient has coded and they've brought them back,
Right.
almost all of the times the first words out of their mouth are, "Why'd you bring me back?" That's the
Yeah,
first time I felt accepted.
absolutely.
Funny but true. And I've learned for me that there's that difference between spiritual experiences and psychic experiences. For me, the psychic is interpreting the best that we can information. The spiritual experience is pretty much all say the same thing. It's love, it's empowerment, it's connected.
All right, we're going to take a short break. Stay tuned for more on raising psychic kids, spiritual nurturing for intuitive children, and training parents to embrace and enhance their psychic child's abilities. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, it's Jamie and Maggie Clark with Psychic Evolution. We want to share an upcoming Starseed Awakening retreat.
We're teaming up with Infinite Healing from the Stars. That's Vivian Chavette, an Octurian hybrid, and Peter Benson with Tensor Energy Tools. And we're joining them for a weekend retreat in Phoenix, Arizona, July 22nd through 24th of 2022. And we're here to assist you in discovering your purpose as a starseed and how to align and activate your starseed DNA. Let the ascension begin with this multidimensional, intergalactic, and interactive journey. Included will be Arcturian holographic healing, ancestral starseed mediumship, planetary grid realignment, and exercises to embody your starseed DNA. You are cosmic celestial energy. Visit jamieclark.net to register and for more information. We look forward to gathering with like-minded starseeds.
Free your inner space astronaut and immerse yourself in your starseed heritage.
And for our podcast listeners, we do have a coupon code to take $75 off your registration at checkout. Enter the coupon code INTERGALACTIC and pay attention at checkout to see what your total is, because the language of the universe is always speaking to you. And welcome back. We are here with Michelle Henderson talking about raising psychic kids.
Have you had any of the kids or parents that as they're working with their psychic abilities that maybe they go into more of a creative state? Because to me, creativeness and psychic go hand in hand.
Absolutely agree with that, because you are using that creative. And a lot of times whenever I'm working with the parents, I say, you've got to get that ego out of the way. You've got to get that logical thinking out of the way. And whenever you are working with not only your psychic ability, but also with your child's, be creative. Whenever you doodle, or whenever, you drive sometimes, your subconscious gets out of the way, your ego gets out of the way so that you can do that creative thinking. It's the same thing with psychic abilities. When you get that out of the way and you learn how to do that through meditation, you learn how to work with the energy, the thought pattern, and then you can bring in that spirituality, experience that way. But yes, creativity and art, bringing in painting. But yeah, doodling is one of the things that I do when I do readings.
Really? And what does that do for you during a reading?
Oh,
Is that an expression? What does it give you insight? What is happening?
it's very interesting because it gets me. I don't want to say it's like hypnosis, but it's almost like it gets me ready to get spirit to come in. I'm able to get my subconscious out of the way and my ego. I get that thought process out of the way. When I start doodling, it just, for some reason, I can listen to spirit so much better than if I'm trying to, it's like Chinese torture. If I'm not doodling and I'm going, okay, come through. And then my ego gets in the way. And so if I doodle and I'm looking at the lines and everything, and it's almost like my ear is listening and I'm able to hear much better and the connection is better.
Sounds like mentally you're giving yourself just a focus point.
And that's
I'm drawing,
basically,
here we go, but I'm open and
yes.
listening, here we go. Beautiful.
And
That's
what I
awesome.
used to do when I first started out in mediumship is I would actually start drawing a likeness of the person. So I would use it because I love color, and I would use the different colors and I would connect in and say, okay, what color was your hair? And it was a very slow process. But once I understood it's almost like anything else. Just like anything else that a child may have, parents are going to find resources to help the child tune in or, work on their abilities, like riding a bicycle. They need to learn the talent of how to ride a bicycle, the physical way to do it. Well, it's the same thing with mediumship. And it took me years to be able to understand how to connect in.
Why do you think that was years?
For me, it was, I kept getting in the way. I kept questioning it, not spirit. And I kept going, oh my God. And then it would scare me. But until I understood more of how I worked, and then once I connected in, spirit would, help me then. But I think they were giving me a chance to really work on myself, because there for a while I was still afraid of it. And I didn't really understand what was going on.
Why were you so afraid of the experience of abilities?
And that is a great question. And we keep bringing it up. It's my background and the religious aspects of it. The devil's coming through. And so I guess when I was a child, I was programmed to be afraid of it. And of course, scary movies didn't help in the 70s. They scared the heck out of me. Amityville Horror. So until I really started working with a mentor and she walked me through it, then I understood and I started accepting it more and more and not to be afraid of it.
And when you found yourself more comfortable, did that bring comfort to other people around you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think my kids too saw the process that I went through, and they definitely have little psychic abilities. And so now it's like they're going, you go, Mom, you go, keep going. So, but yes.
But look at how comfortable they are with you.
Right. Right. Now, my mother, on the other hand, is not.
Okay.
Yeah.
She wasn't able to bridge the gap.
Good thing is, look at the guts you have.
Yes. She always tells me, do not be careful. Don't cross that line. Don't cross that line. But she's got the psychic ability herself, but she started going to a church that programmed her to be afraid of it.
Well, and with your background working with kids and, education and behavior, you have the awareness that our programming from that early age really starts solidifying at a young age. What is it, 0 to 3? Most of the
Yes.
programming happens, and then 0 to
Right.
7, it's almost
Right.
complete. And so your
Yes.
subconscious is like, whoa. So when we do grow up with that much fear and that much conditioning around something, sometimes we have to
Yes.
unravel that and get back to peace. And the fact that you can do that work, I think that's a beautiful piece of work that every human should do on the planet, whether they're becoming a psychic medium or not. I feel like addressing
Right.
your fears and overcoming them is part of growing into just the human potential and the experience.
Mhm.
What I really love is that you have these exercises in this book that for children can help them learn in different ways. Sometimes you're learning through your body, sometimes you're learning through your mind, sometimes you're learning through art or something artistic. And all these different exercises are actually building conscious conditioning, especially if the
Mhm.
child's young, to help them
Right.
tap in and be comfortable. So they're being conditioned with less fear of their natural abilities, their natural psychic abilities, and then more acceptance and more integration. How does the integration process work for children as they go through some of the techniques that you have in the book? How does the integration happen with whether their brain or their chemistry or their behavior, and how does that transform them?
That is a great question. What I always tell the parents too is always look at the developmental level of where your child is at. Because what you do for a 3-year-old to help them embrace their abilities will be totally different than a teenager, of course. But whenever they start having those experiences, just talking about it and say, "What did you see? Can you tell me what you saw?" And if they can start, and you know how 3 and 4-year-olds draw, but they can still do a stick figure, and they can express themselves. Or you can bring out the little puppets and say, okay, what did this person say? Because if a lot of
Hmm.
times children are so concrete that they may not be able to express themselves abstractly. And so when you start talking about feelings, well, how did you feel when the spirit came in to talk to you about? They may not be able to express it. But if you bring out toys, they start relaxing. It's almost like creative therapy. They start talking and they go, "Oh, yeah, and this is what the spirit said," and so forth. So just having a conversation and telling them that is just fascinating. Tell me about your imaginary friend. So that's what we can do to start getting them used to talking about the language. And as they get older, then you can start meditating with them, doing yoga with them, learning the breathing techniques. And all this does is showing them that they are in control and that they can actually breathe through something, because breathing, like we were talking about creativeness, will open up you for spirit because that is creative. Breathing can also help you to open up to spirit, because kids do tend to get a little bit anxious sometimes. And then what happens then when they get accepting and everything, it's when they start talking to their peers. And then if their peers don't accept it, then they close down a little bit. So it's just one of those things, step by step, like anything else you've got to walk through with a child so that they accept through each developmental milestone.
I think that's a beautiful point, and giving him that solid backing along the way.
And I definitely feel like children are coming into this world with a lot more expanded consciousness. As humanity's expanding their consciousness, we see these children that are way far advanced than I would ever dream of being as a child, with less veils, less forgettery,
Right.
like a stronger connection to spirit and a stronger connection to their life force energy, a stronger connection to an empowerment type of energy as well. And coupled with that, I see more intense life force energy, which has been labeled ADHD, and
Hmm.
it has these labels around it like, oh, they're hyperactive, they're
Yes.
this. Well, they have all this energy. They're coming
Right.
in
Right.
like with less restrictions because they're having less restrictions from their belief system and
Hmm.
the way that they're being raised, and just on a soul vibration too, they're more expanded. Working with these kids as they're coming in now with all this less, I would say, less baggage or less veils, less amnesia of who they really are. Going forward, how does your book really develop that expansiveness? Because some parents are not going to understand what these kids are really referring to or talking about. how can you work with children when you don't know how to bridge that gap of consciousness?
Right, right. And and it's very difficult to know. And really what I tell people, this has been going on. Our children are so sensitive and so spiritual. It's been going on since the 60s. Through lifetimes, it's been going on. It's just society tends to shut it down. And if the parents don't know what to do, or if you come across a child that is showing their abilities, I think that you need to educate yourself because knowledge is so important. You've got to find somebody who is in the business. And it may not be a psychic medium if you're not comfortable with that, but somebody who is in the spiritual business, somebody that understands that holistic view of how to look at it and how to use those exercises and to embrace that energy and the well-being of the child. Because again, not everybody is open to everything.
Right, right. Obviously, everyone listening to this podcast is very open to psychic mediums most of the
Absolutely.
time,
Yes.
and usually they're already on that path of being a light worker, and they really do want to support their kids as they're being raised, and whether they're already grown up or little, it's really being able to relate to another level of consciousness and another being on a soul vibration. What other techniques do you feel are the most important as like a paradigm base for working with children besides, really the communication, knowing that they can set boundaries? What's the next step after that for kids?
I love that question. Y'all have some really good questions. I think the next step is really getting with the child and educating others. Educating, getting the kids together and educating and talking about their abilities and really expanding that knowledge to everybody else. And I think that's one reason why I was kind of guided to do this work is because I am working with a lot of people who are not open to the paradigm, to get things going in that direction. And so I think with the younger kids, I mean, they have the ability to talk like a little adult. They can be the example to the adults that really don't understand and explain, yeah, I mean, I talk to Jesus every night or whoever they connect with, and they need to use that language. We have technology that they can actually express whatever they're going through and what they believe in just to educate others. And I think the kids too these days, they don't really care what people think, which is good. They're loving and they want to show everybody who they truly are. But I think it's needed for them to express themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and what a vision of having a community of kids who maybe take a class period of sharing all the weird stuff, sharing the
Yes.
crystals in their pockets and,
Absolutely.
sharing their doodle of their imaginary friend. Like the sharing aspect, I think we do that in schools and we're taught how to share. We all sit together and we're all going to do this project, this creative project together, whether we are drawing an A for the alphabet or whether we're drawing a picture of a tree. And, I had a pet leprechaun as a friend when I was
Oh,
a
cool.
child. Of course, I couldn't tell anyone. I couldn't talk to anyone about this. Like I couldn't share this with anyone because everyone would be like, oh, you're crazy. And I think I tried to share it with a friend once because I showed her where I hid his food before school. And then I showed her how he picked it up and he would, I assumed he ate it, of course, as a kid.
Mm,
And after school
yeah.
it'd be gone. And so I think I attempted to share, but I think it fell flat because I remember not sharing after that and being like, okay, either she didn't believe me or it was like, yeah, whatever,
Yes. And
but it
that's
wasn't like
exactly
there
right.
wasn't a connection being made. And I love the fact that building of a community, I have a vision in my head when you see that of schools where they take time out to meditate. They take time
Mhm.
out to share all the stranger aspects of their growing and their spiritual development.
And have you ever thought about doing an online university for parents and children?
Actually, I have, and I think that's one reason why, because the book kind of organized me into a program because it's very technical, and I actually have a clinical background in education, and so I try not to be as clinical as so that the parents or the light workers reading the book could be actually follow the program. But yes, all of the above. I think when children are born, I think the angels could come to them. I think everybody comes to them because they're so open. And they just now left heaven or, the divine or, the place beyond. So they just left. And so they're so open to it that I think that a lot of the parents at first are going, "Oh, wow, I don't know about this," especially if it's not in the family. And I think it really helps them seeking out. And like what we're talking about religion, I think, a lot of religions are beginning to open up. And I think it's a perfect time for these kiddos to open up and really strengthen their abilities because everybody is beginning to open up, and embrace it. That would be a wonderful thing. And what I'm trying to, because I think that's a two-parter. I think there needs to be a course for light workers who want to work with families. And then I believe also families need the training as well. So you've got to, at the university, you have to have two different classes or two different objectives going. But yeah, so I did think about a university. Yeah. And expand. But I'm just excited to see where this is going to go.
That is such a beautiful vision in my head. And I hope one day, when you create your university
Yes.
that Jamie wants you
Okay,
to
I'm gonna
create,
work on it.
or at least he's feeling
Yes.
you're going to create,
Right.
that's a part of it. When they all come online and they're sharing, "Hey, I got this crystal and it's helping me with this and it feels like this." And, like
Absolutely.
those types of sharing aspects. It's such a beautiful vision for humanity as we develop and grow into all of these aspects of being psychic, which is so natural, so
Right.
natural.
It's
It's
supernatural.
That's
It
right.
is. It
Yeah.
is, right?
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You said it perfectly. In the public school system, a lot of it's not accepted, but I think that the parents are beginning to open up their own private schools. And I think that is really going to help our kids is if they get away from the traditional school system so that they can do all of these things. Because it takes a while for education to change, with the norm and everything. So I think with the private schools or the homeschooling that's going on, that's going to help.
And I think that's what it takes is those parents coming now who are a little bit more open, less conditioning with the old school paradigm, or willing to work through the conditioning to a new way that are raising their children to really blossom. I love it. I can't wait to see this in a school system.
Have you ever had any kids who start to get comfortable with their abilities and then in their own way, they start helping other kids with that ability? Hey, like watch out riding your bike or, whatever the case is. Have you heard anything like that?
I have not. I have not. It just seems like it's kind of within the family. Now, the instance I told you with the two teenagers working together, that was really a cool story, but I don't hear that all the time. Now, a lot of times they get shut down by their friends, unfortunately. But you've got to remember, too, where I live in Texas, it's going to still be that conservativeness. So until we get these kids together in a class or something, that's when we can start seeing that.
Then it becomes power in numbers, the tipping point of consciousness.
It's that security.
Well, you want to feel safe, man. Otherwise, look,
Yes.
I hope man, you'd be so inaccurate and fearful, you wouldn't even pick it up.
Or they attend this beautiful online university where kids can
There you go.
meet in classroom settings, and then have the
Yes,
resources to share in like-minded community. Beautiful.
I love it. Yeah, see if we keep talking. It will
Yeah,
present itself,
and maybe
right?
have classes of creativity, artistic, classes for
Yes.
writing, all that kind of stuff. That way, as they're developing, to me, they can use and infuse their abilities within the words, the painting, all of
Oh,
those. Because for me, I
absolutely.
always say the real meaning, of creativity is to have one picture and allow 10 million people to see it and each walk away with their own reality of it. It's
Agreed.
that kind of connection,
Yeah.
that people can see and appreciate and feel the artistry of that soul print of consciousness, not just looking at it, feeling it.
Yes.
Well, we want to thank you for writing this book. We found it to be thorough, perfectly arranged for anybody on this planet, whether they have kids of their own or they work with kids or they want to support people that have kids. Like this book is for every person because all of us have an investment in the children on this planet. And all of us, whether we have children or not, we as light workers will come across these questions in any field we are, whether we're a nurse at a hospital, whether we're a teacher, whether we're a healer, whether it doesn't matter who you are and how you are serving in humanity right now. It's just a very excellent, excellent book. So thank you, Michelle, for putting the energy, the time, the attention to really crafting this to be as magnificent as it is.
Well, thank you so much. And I appreciate the conversation that we had today. And, especially since university was brought up over and over again. So no, I appreciate your support and your kind words. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you for what you do. It's each one of us contributing the best that we can in our own unique way. Yeah. Bringing this planet together, one person at a time.
Absolutely.
Yes. Jamie loves to plant seeds of consciousness with everybody. So that's your seed of the day.
Yay. I love it. Absolutely.
Sometimes from that different perspective, they get a different vantage point. Not better or worse, but different. And, I think the average person just wants to know, I matter. I'm a whole person and complete. You're talking with me, not just to me. And I've seen a lot of that empowerment, not narcissism, self-realization. And a lot of the kids are starting to open up of that self-love. What is one of the most amazing spiritual experiences that you have had so far?
I really believe my spiritual experiences really happened when in my 20s, when you had that spiritual awakening. I was visited by spirit and I could hear whispers, and it was a group of them. And of course, it scared me. And I was like, I'm afraid of it. And I would say, okay, you all are scaring me. And I buried my head in the pillow and I could feel somebody stroking my neck going, it's going to be okay. And I think with that, I knew that it was going to be okay, that it was nothing evil. Because when you're spiritual awakening, you are sensitive. And I would walk into an antique store and I'd feel all of this energy and I'm going, oh my gosh, what is going on? And because I was feeling all the energy from the objects or spirit. And I think it was just a beautiful thing because I opened it and I'm thinking, I am here. I'm accepting whatever you want me to do.
Beautiful. Well, how can our listeners get in touch with you, Michelle?
Okay, they can contact me on my website, which is www.michellehendersonmedium.com. And they can email me, and my email's on the website. But that's usually the best place. Yeah.
And we'll have a link in the show notes for all of our listeners. So thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you and appreciate this awesome book that you wrote. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
We'd love to have you back on and talk more about the university.
The university. I'll have a name then besides university.
Watch. Yeah. Well, it starts with one idea.
That's true.
Kind
that
of like
is very
JC.
true.
Hello, my beautiful goddesses. It's Maggie from the podcast Psychic Evolution, and I want to invite you to a fall equinox 5-day, 4-night, all-inclusive women's retreat in 2022, where you explore your feminine essence through the potent medicine of the goddess, witch, and womb, the multifaceted essence of your wild woman. Are you ready to take the time for you? This is a true escape from reality where you will learn, grow, and nurture your soul, as well as rest and reset. Gather with like-minded sisters to explore the essence of feminine magic, what it means to be embodied, how to love yourself on a deeper level than you ever have before, through ancient ceremonial magic and the spirit of plants. This journey into the unknown will create space for the breakthroughs you've always hoped for. Visit mysticharmonyrose.com to register and for more information. And I am honored to join you in Sedona at this retreat. I look forward to seeing you there. If you have been enjoying this podcast, we please ask that you go to Apple Podcasts and go ahead and rate this podcast. Leave us an awesome review. We really appreciate your reviews. They mean a lot to us. And thank you so much. If you are listening to this on something other than Apple Podcasts, you can leave a review on our website. We also have a little microphone on the bottom right-hand corner of our website. If you want to ask a question and leave us a question, it will be a voicemail recorded. We'll play back your voice on this podcast and answer your questions if we can get to them all. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We love you guys.
Love and light, and we'll see you in our psychic evolution.